Hi, and welcome to Veda Day 1 for August 2016. Today's topic is to introduce myself. I've already done Veda once earlier in the year. That was my first time. So I learned a couple of things. The whole purpose of Veda is it's vlogging every day in August this time. So last time I did it was in April. The key purpose of it is to just teach people how to get people in the habit of vlogging every day, and hopefully improving a little bit every day. So hopefully if you go back and compare this to the very first Veda I did back in April, it was a windy day and I really needed a good mic. So I've worked a little bit on audio issues, since I think it's really annoying when people don't have good audio. Working a little bit on lighting. This is not ideal, but you know, gotta put together what I can. So anyway, just to introduce myself, my name's Mark Noble. I'm an electrical and computer engineer. I try and be a bit of a futurist. I really like to think about what the future has in store, and specifically maybe what opportunities we might be missing. The future that is available to us now, because one thing I see when I look back is that a lot of times new ideas and innovations, maybe the technology was actually available many years before it became popular, just didn't catch on. So sometimes I wonder if maybe we could have had certain technologies a little bit earlier, what the world would have been like. And I know in my personal life I try and get as close to that forefront as I can, and I also try and do it affordably. So I'm interested in concepts of minimalism, mostly just in terms of efficiency. So I plan to talk a little bit about that. In the last vlog, there was a product I really wanted to show as kind of a retro technology product, because this is my 20th year working as a professional in computers and web development and mobile devices, stuff like that. So anyway, I have some interesting gadgets laying around that some of you will remember, and others of you, it might blow your mind to find the kinds of technologies that I was using every day and how I was using them back 10, 15 years ago. So I have some interesting surprises coming up with that. I also try and be a bit of a philosopher, just to think about ethical and moral frameworks in a lot of different aspects of what we do. And so anyway, that's kind of what I plan to target in this series for this month. I'm located in Columbus, Ohio, so right in America's heartland, the Great Lakes or Midwest region, depending on what map it's kind of interesting to see how sometimes we get lumped in with the East Coast, other times it's the Midwest. Very interesting to see that to me, but I don't know, you tell me where you think Ohio belongs. Back in 2011, I was the #2 libertarian candidate in the nation in terms of vote totals. So that's the number of people in America who voted for me. And the interesting thing was, it wasn't a statewide race or a national race where you would expect such high vote totals. It was actually a race for Columbus City Council. So something that, this is a pretty interesting day, is on August 2nd, which is probably when you're going to see this, there's actually going to be a special election here in Columbus. And so I wanted to take a little bit of time to just talk about the special election that we're going to have, and the ballot issues. And I was thinking a lot about it. I mean, I know a lot of my viewers, when I look at my stats, they come from all around the world and around the United States. And so this is something I really wanted to talk about, because it's something I had a lot of experience with. But at the same time, I wanted to talk about it in a way that I thought would be useful and hopefully interesting to people all over the globe. So what we have this ballot issue tomorrow. On my ballot, it's the only thing on the ballot. It's just this one question. Yes or no is the answer. Should this new scheme be adopted or not? And what it is we have a city council, which is the office I ran for. I had to collect about 1,500 signatures, which a lot of times the major parties, they go and they collect those by hand, but I collected 1,000 of them personally. That means I met 1,000 people over a relatively short span of time. It was late autumn and right through into January and maybe February. I forget exactly when the deadline was, but it was bitterly cold. I have some Facebook photos that show me with icicles coming down off of my hat. It was brutal, and it's not something I'd want to do again. And so I just thought, you know, the way city council is now, it's got 7 members that are at large. So I forget the exact size of the city. It was between 1 million and 1.5 million people, maybe. I don't know what it is today, and a lot of that is confused because there are a lot of little metro areas, a lot of suburbs and stuff that kind of overlap the county area and stuff. So there are a lot of people in the region, and it's like the 10th largest metropolitan area in the United States. So it's a pretty big area, and from a legislative standpoint, the city of Columbus is essentially run by a group of 7 people. They're elected at large, meaning that no matter what neighborhood in the city you live in, you're voting for them. And they are, you know, it's a pretty tough race. You know, it usually costs quite a bit of money to run. I raised $10,000, and, you know, that's nothing compared to what a lot of the opponents, they were raising hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it was just a really big challenge for an individual like myself without major party backing to go and to do that. So I, of course, would like to see some reforms to that process. Another thing about our city council is it's been dominated by the Democratic Party. They've had a majority every year since 1965. So when it comes to the diversity of ideas, there really isn't much. As part of running as a candidate, I attended just about every city council meeting for an entire year, and I was shocked to see how, you know, most things they just do a roll call vote. So they'll just say, do we want to spend $50 million, and then they'll just read off the names of the 7 council members, and if no one says anything, then it just automatically passes. So it's almost every issue that came up before city council. There was a rare exception where there was any public discussion at the city council meetings or anything. It was just they'd rattle off some number, and then they would rattle off the names of the people, and boom, you spent $50 million or something like that. So it was a very interesting thing, but I think I'd like to see a little bit more dialogue, and I'd like to see better representation. Another problem with at-large city council members is that every one of them represents the whole city. But one of the things that I learned when I was campaigning is that this is a freaking huge city. Since I worked as a technical consultant for many years, I found myself working in lots of different parts of the city for a number of years at a time. So what that did is that gave me familiarity with, I'd say, different quadrants of the city. But even there, I was, you know, you're not getting down into the neighborhoods, you're not getting to meet all of the people. I mean, it's just amazing how big the city is and how diverse it is in terms of different neighborhoods and different issues that affect those neighborhoods. It's just astounding. And I honestly don't believe that one person, let alone we could find 7 people capable of this, can really keep their pulse on the, you know, the city well enough to be serving all the neighborhoods. So anyway, there's this ballot issue called Issue 1. And what it would do is it would chop up the city council. So it's no longer just 7 at-large people. It would be a council comprised of 25 members, and 3 of them would be at-large members still. But the rest of them would be in these little subdivisions. In my area, you know, it's not clear where the wards would be. Part of this measure is to draw them up. But in my area, there's already a political division called a ward, and it's about 1 mile by 1 mile or thereabouts. It's there might be a little bit bigger than that, but it's the kind of area that people could walk around. Even if it were a little bit bigger, you could bike around it. You definitely get a sense of neighborhood and community in most of what I would consider a ward. So that kind of thing remains to be seen, though. But it's definitely not going to be the whole city. So anytime you've got this big whale that needs to be eaten, if you can cut it up into little tiny bits, it's going to be a lot more manageable, and I think you're going to get a lot better, more opportunities for representation. And if the elected official is not representing people, the new measure has a provision for recalling them. It would require 15% of the registered voters in that ward in order to recall the candidate. So not only is there more accountability because the people in the neighborhood can pay more attention to the representative of their neighborhood, but they also have the ability to recall them. I'm not exactly sure what 15% of the registered voters in an area would be, but it's not 50 or something. It seems like it could be manageable, and in theory, if the person is representing the neighborhood badly enough, hopefully 15% of the people could be persuaded to bring it up for a recall vote. So one thing that the new proposal would require, issue 1, is that the council members actually be elected from wards and that they actually live in for at least 1 year prior. So they have to live in a ward for a year, then they're eligible to be elected to serve. And they have to live in the ward the whole time. So the idea is that you're not going to have opportunism where there's a ward vote coming up and just someone moves into an apartment there and then they stay there during the course of the election and then they move out. That it's hopefully going to be someone from the community. Ultimately that's going to be up to the voters, but the idea is to have people living and people from the community running for these ward seats and people living in the community. Let's see. They have to be, it was interesting, they talked a little bit about how they must be drawn up. So they have to be contiguous, compact, and to the extent practical, follow streets, waterways, geographic boundaries, communities, and neighborhoods. So the idea here is that if you have a neighborhood that's pretty well established in where the boundaries of it are already, for example, I live in a neighborhood called Clintonville, then that's been pretty much discussed and defined over the years, and there are a lot of maps of where it exists. And so there are people who either they believe they live in Clintonville or they live outside of Clintonville, and the idea is to keep the wards so that you don't end up with someone who represents like half of Clintonville and then half of some other neighborhood that's nearby, or these weird gerrymandered districts with these weird shapes and everything. So I think that's a nice provision of it as well. It prohibits the consideration of the residence of any person in drawing wards. So for example, if you look at if one were to look at the map of what district I live in congressionally, it's really interesting because the district I live in is actually most of the western part of the county, but there's this little tendril that goes into the county, and then it goes around and it scoops out and it goes right to my house. And so what that means is that there are, I forget if it's congressional or state rep district, but there are districts that are like just down the street, like 2 blocks away, and I can't run to represent these people who are truly my neighbors. And the same goes in another direction, but the people that I'm allowed to represent are way over on the western part of the county for the most part. It's, even outside of the Beltway, which, I live inside of the Beltway. So these people, it's just really interesting how the way things were gerrymandered, that it just puts me in a position where I have to commute to the out to the fringes of the county just to run for certain offices that I've run for in the past. So, I mean, it could totally be a coincidence that I don't get to run to represent my immediate neighbors, where it would be really easy for me to go out and knock on doors and all this kind of stuff. It just seems interesting that I've kind of been a thorn in the side to some of the major parties on occasion, and my house just happens to be gerrymandered so that I end up having to campaign really far away from where I live. So that kind of stuff would hopefully be eliminated. Of course, there are other things like figuring out where the mayor lives or where existing city council people live, and then redistricting based on that. So anyway, it's just, I like that provision, but it's up to enforcement how many teeth it has, and we'll have to see about that. But I think it's better than what we have now. It requires a candidate for council that's elected from a ward to submit petitions with signatures of no less than 150 electors in the ward. So like I said before, I ran and I had to submit 1,500 to make sure that I had enough valid, and we just barely scraped by. 1,000 of those I collected myself, and there were 1,000 that were required. So 150, maybe you could petition and get 200 signatures. I've petitioned, and there's my train clock again. People from Veda last spring would remember that. 150 valid. I think I could probably do pretty easily 50 to 60 valid signatures in a weekend. So in a neighborhood like mine, it makes it a lot easier to get on the ballot. There's going to be a lot less petitioning in January, hopefully. As long as people start petitioning when they are able, they should be able to, over the course of a couple of weekends, get enough signatures going door to door in order to get on the ballot to represent their community. And I would imagine, I didn't read the specific provisions of this, but you're probably going to have a primary too. So you could have a whole bunch of people who go and try and get on the ballot with a whole bunch of different parties, and then you could narrow it down to a couple of them. I wasn't sure. I mean, it seems to have a lot of partisan language in here, which I actually think is a good thing, because my race was a nonpartisan race, but it was heavily dominated by partisan actors. So, like, for example, even though technically it's a nonpartisan race for city council, everyone who won and has won recently, they were all Democrats. And a lot of that is due to the structure of it. So the city council members have resigned for various reasons, some of them due to suspicious activities with regard to campaign finance or other fraud. And so what they did is, rather than let the people kick them out, they kind of resigned, kicked themselves out, and that gave the other Democrats on the council the opportunity to appoint other Democrats, which served for maybe 6 months before the election. And then they're practically running as incumbents, meaning people who've already been on city council at that point. So it's been really hard for even the other major political party to unseat them. So it's kind of that's something I'd like to see change, and I think this might help that a little bit. It seems to kind of try to break up the one party monopoly that's been on city council, like I said, since 1965. Let's see. It provides that 9 members of so there's going to be an apportionment committee, and their job is to draw up the wards, and the committee has to be made up, it says, to the extent practicable. They have to represent the city demographically and geographically. So, for example, I would imagine demographically it refers to economic factors. I don't know, maybe it would refer to ethnic factors or things like that, and also geographically. So you're not going to end up with this group drawing up the maps that are all from wealthy neighborhoods or all from poor neighborhoods, or they're not all. It's supposed to be a variety, and I think that's a good thing. On its face, the city council right now is pretty diverse. They have a number of different races and genders present on the council, and I think that's what people look for. But it seems like almost everyone on the council is an attorney, so there's not really a lot of diversity of occupation, and in my view, the way one thinks at problems. They do have some diverse backgrounds in terms of what they did before they became attorneys, and so maybe becoming an attorney is par for the course. But the real problem is that there's not really diversity of thought when it comes to different parties. I mean, we have several different parties. At one point we had 6 different parties here in the city, and which were Republican, Democrat, Constitution, Libertarian, Green, and I think Socialist, so 6 of them. But we only really get one unified monopolistic voice of just the Democrats, and if you only have 7 people, I can understand why they would want to do that, but that's why it's nice to have a lot more people, so that, okay, let's say the city is majority Democrat, you can have a bunch of the people be Democrats and express their views on city council, but then you can also have those other voices, which the opposition, in their TV ads, they pitch it as, nothing will be able to get done, it'll be just like Congress and all this kind of stuff. Well, I don't want stuff to get done at the expense of hearing minority voices. So, good. I mean, I really think they'll find a way to get stuff done if it's important. And a lot of the stuff that's been being done with a monopoly has been unimportant. So, let's see. Oh yeah, so it's interesting that the way this is all going to start off, or well, the way people are going to be appointed to the apportionment committee, which is once again the one that draws up the map of where all these little districts are. 3 of them are appointed by the mayor, but the mayor, presumably affiliated with one party, like currently the mayor is a Democrat. He used to be a city council member, and now he's a mayor. And I actually ran against the guy who's currently mayor in 2011. He gets to pick 3 people, and one represents a majority political party, so I would say probably a Democrat. One represents the minority political party as then represented on council. So, for example, there might be a Republican, because they ran, in my election, it was 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and then 2 Libertarians, which is another story entirely. But so, the Republicans finished a little ahead, so they were closer to getting on the ballot. I lost by about 5%. But there were 2 Republicans who finished ahead of me. So I would imagine that you'd end up with, under the new rules, a mayor would, for example, pick a Democrat, a Republican, and then here's the great thing. And one member who is unaffiliated with a political party or is a member of a political party that has no seats on council. So what this does is that's one chance. The mayor gets to appoint 3 people, and he has to appoint 1 from his party, 1 from the opposing party, and then 1 from either no party affiliation or one of the minor parties, or we call them challenger parties in Ohio. So that's really neat. So then the existing council gets to pick 3 members. Once again, 1 from the majority party, which in this case would be the Democrats, 1 from the minority political party, which in this case would probably be the Republicans, and then 1 who's either unaffiliated or from one of the other minor parties. So there you go. That's already, we're up to 6 people, and 2 of them are from challenger parties. So you're going to get, hopefully, a lot of, new and different ideas. When I ran on city council, whenever it was my turn to answer the question first, an interesting thing would happen. I would give my answer as a challenger party candidate, a libertarian, and both the Republican candidates and Democratic candidates would agree with me. And then we just move on to the next question. So it was, I actually liked it better when I got to save my answer for last, because then my answer was the only fresh answer that you saw there. Everyone else just said, they either stood on party lines. So anyway, that's, so I'm glad that so far we've got, to that point, we've got 6 members picked out to be appointed, and already 2 of them are, challenger party candidates. But then I think there's another, let's see, sorry, I'm having to read through a little bit. I mean, this is like, I'm trying to simplify it. I can put up some of this text, or I'll put up a link to the ballot issue in case any of you want to read through. I mean, it's like, I don't know, a page or 2 long that people are going to be reading through at the polls. Hopefully not for the first time tomorrow. But yeah. Okay, so yeah, anyway, it comes into play that essentially there are going to have to be some dissenting voices. That's just how the new system is set up. So it's going to be interesting. There have to be dissenting voices on the apportionment committee, and then I think that's likely with the ease of getting on the ballot, and from what I've seen, I only lost by 5%. Clearly, people are interested in having a diversity of opinions enough to support me to that extent. So I think we're likely to see a much more diverse city council, hopefully, down the road. Let's see. So they talk a little bit. The mayor has sole authority to appoint apportionment committee members if less than 9 electors apply. So these people are appointed, but they actually have to apply to be considered for appointment. So there have been a lot of cases, like I think in 2011 actually, where the body of school board didn't have enough people turn in enough valid signatures to be candidates. So most of the candidates, even from the major parties, ran as write-ins. And that was kind of, I hadn't seen that a lot before. But so I thought that was surprising. And essentially, if the Libertarian Party had a candidate who got enough signatures, they would have had a leg up on the competition because their name would have been pre-printed on the ballot. Wouldn't have had to be a write-in. So yeah, I think this is interesting. There was also a thing too. It said it mandates the consideration of a person's political affiliation in appointing members to the new apportionment committee. So my take on that is that you're not allowed to have an apportionment committee that's all Democrats or all Republicans or all Libertarians or all Green Party members or all Socialists or all Constitution Party members or all, who knows what party people dream up next. You're just going to have, it mandates that people consider, even though these are often nonpartisan things, it mandates that it's considered, the political background is considered in it. So anyway, I think that sounds like a much needed improvement over the system we have. There are some drawbacks. I mean, obviously, it's going to cost some money to make room. We only have 7 city council members now. They're going to have to refactor some things and make room for this larger body. But considering that the representatives are going to come from individual neighborhood areas, and that it's going to be required that there's a little bit of political diversity in some of these processes, I think it's an issue worthy of support. So anyway, yeah, it's the tricky thing about these Veda things is that I've still got all my Veda ones up for April. So I just kind of wanted to run through some of the details of that ballot issue and why I thought some of the things were interesting and good and worthy of support, and that hopefully, after seeing that, maybe I'll do it a couple more times if I get some good feedback on it. Hopefully that'll maybe help people who are a little confused about the political process just get a little bit more curious about it and a little bit more involved, and maybe in my neighborhood run for, go and collect 150 valid signatures and get on the ballot for a city council position where, I would have had to collect 1,000. So I'm really excited about it, and I plan to vote tomorrow. So anyway, that's it for this. I'm going to have some links below. One of the things I like to do is I like to have a running discussion. So I've got that supported on 2 platforms right now. Well, first of all, I'm on Twitter. So if you want to find me on Twitter and talk to me, I'm at Mark Noble, MarkNoble. And I'm also going to put some links for how to contact me via Skype, which is essentially what I use as my telephone, and SMS. So if you want to just say hi, you can say hi. I'm kind of busy, so I might not answer, but feel free to leave a voicemail or a video voicemail or just a text message. In fact, if you want to try and add me, I really recommend changing the default answer just to differentiate yourself from the spammers. Probably a good idea to mention Veda, and then I'll give you a green light. There's this Telegram messenger, and I'd really kind of like your help to put it through its paces. There are aspects of it that are open source. It's kind of independent from a lot of the other corporate IM clients. It has kind of a walkie-talkie functionality. It has some really high security functionalities that I like. And one of the neat things that I want to use is it actually supports really huge group chats. So anyone that's ever watched one of my Veda videos would be able to participate. So anyway, just wanted to invite people to check out the Telegram chat. And finally, tomorrow, August 2nd, in addition to being election day, is the day that the Windows 10 anniversary update launches to the public. And that means I think it's over 20% of computers, PCs that run Windows have Windows 10 installed on it as of tomorrow. And what that means is that 20% of computer users are able to run my app. And so I made a little app, and what it does is it keeps you in touch with my blog. It keeps you in touch with social media, like my Twitter account, and it also keeps you in touch with these Veda videos. The neat thing about it is I wrote it for Windows Phone, so I've got my Windows Phone right here, and here I'll activate it. Oh, got to use my iris scan. Oh, must have rebooted. So okay, so yeah, there's my little Windows Phone with all my tiles and everything. It also works on my Surface, my tablet. It runs on my PC, my desktop, starting any day now. A lot of these UWP apps, Universal Windows Platform is what UWP stands for. They'll run on my Xbox, and soon the same app will be running on HoloLens. So you'll be able to go and put on a HoloLens and holographically have my Veda videos following you around your house, so you could just pin one to the wall. That's a topic for another discussion. But anyway, check out my app. It's really cool. You can take it everywhere. And yeah, I know I'm not CNN, but if CNN doesn't give you direct chat capabilities with them to answer questions, and I really would this time like to drive it a lot more on questions from the viewers about things. I got some really great questions last time, and I already have some great ideas for things to show you this time around. So I hope you tune in. I hope you're active and ask a lot of questions. And I'm also going to be sharing it with friends and family, so that maybe this would be a good opportunity to answer some questions for them. So anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Mark Noble, and please subscribe and like this video for Veda in August 2016. And let's see if I can do another one. I don't think I missed a day in April, so I'm going to try and be 2 for 2. And I've just about everyone else I saw who was doing Veda missed a day in April, so I'm pretty proud of not missing a day. And that's it for me. So I'll see you tomorrow.